I'm after writing out a bit of wiring loom schematic for this tractor, for the simple reason being that this white wire here that goes to the connection on the coil, the positive connection from the key switch, it has battery voltage when I turn on the ignition. When I start the engine, it doesn't. So I put on a bit of a jumper wire straight down from the battery. I bolted on a nice connection onto it there, ringlet. So that was a good connection, and I had female connector on the end of it, and that's why I fitted this male push-on connector onto the coil there. So that was bypassing this wire here coming from the switch. So I'm going to do a little hunting around here now and checking to make sure that this wiring loom was fitted right according to that schematic that I'm after writing out. I do have my doubts that maybe one or two of the wires were fitted in the wrong place, so we'll go through it slowly and check with the trusty multimeter that everything is in the right place. This switch is an original Lucas switch, and you can just see that the terminals on it are numbered. You can just see number 2 there. That's the blue and white wire. And you can see number 1 there in the back with the brown wire. And you can see, I think that's number 3 then. Look. Yeah, number 3 then has the 2 white wires on it. Now when we look at my diagram here, so white blue wire should be on number 1, and on this it's on number 2. And likewise there's another one, that brown one is in the wrong place as well. This white wire here on the left, the very far left there, isn't great, so I'm going to put a new female spade connector on that. It's probably doing its job, it's definitely making a connection. It's not completely broken, but I'll fix that. I just want to swap these wires around according to the schematic and see if it'll make any difference. I'm double checking over the connections in this control box. So the first tick yellow wire is D from dynamo, and that is the same down at the dynamo. It's tick wire. E is earth, and that is that ringlet there. A is the battery, that's positive, and that's also on the key switch there. You see the brown wire, so that's power coming into the switch. And F, the tin green and yellow wire, is field. That's going down to the field coil in the dynamo, and again that looks good. I thought for a second I might have swapped the D and F connections on this, but no, they are right. Giving them a bit of a pull and a push in out, they do seem to be making good contact, and they're not moving at all. So I'll continue the investigations. I'm after transcribing the wiring schematic from the Ferguson workshop manual. The only thing I've changed is I have converted this tractor to a negative earth rather than positive. Now the Ferguson workshop manual is wrong. This is the the ignition and starter switch, and there's 3 terminals, 1, 2 and 3, and on the back of the switch, being Lucas factory item, it has 1, 2 and 3. Now white blue wire going to number 1, that's incorrect. It should be the brown wire going to 1. That's your power in, and that's coming from your battery to one terminal of the solenoid, the starter solenoid, and that terminal there is used to power a few little things. It's used to power, it's used to take power from your charging system, which is A on the regulator box, so that feeds your battery through here and back into your battery cable and into your battery. And it is also meant to power your switch, but it has to be in terminal number 1. So that is wrong. I've checked mine, and it is brown wire to number 1, and number 2 then there's the 2 white wires. So these are, one of them is going to your coil, as you can see there, and the other one is going to your ignition light. So that is wrong. Another thing that's wrong in the Ferguson workshop manual is, even though they have positive earth wire and schematic, they have the coil wired the wrong way around. So a positive earth should have the power coming into the negative terminal, whereas on the workshop manual it is positive. That's only for positive negative earth. So that's an issue. So I'm after going through everything I can, making sure that I didn't, for example, the 2 yellow wires for D and F, one of the wires is yellow and green, that's F. I made sure that that's going to the right place. I did already go through this in an earlier video, but I just wanted to make sure, now that I'm able to make sense of the wiring system. Now, one issue I was having with this wire here, coming from the ignition switch, when you click on your ignition switch, one click, well, I don't have my battery cable connected. When you click it on one with the battery connected, obviously this light comes on. So that's one of your white wires, and the second white wire comes to your coil. Get it to focus there. So it comes in there, and that should be battery voltage. Now, what I was noticing after a while was battery voltage wasn't going there. So I put on this extra male spade connector there, and I'm running a jumper wire straight down from the battery cable to it. So the next time I have this running for about 20-30 minutes, I'm going to take off that wire, stop the engine, and I'm going to check it for battery voltage. There should be battery voltage coming through at all times, because the coil will draw about a volt out of the power going in, because it does, the resistance will take volt and amps from it, and that will be converted to heat, because they say you can't destroy or energy, you can only change it from one form to another, so it changes to heat due to the resistance in the coil. So it is looking good, apart from, again, I just have to test this white wire going to the coil, but sometimes the connections in behind that, in that key switch, can get a little bit through arcing, and through years of power flowing from one side to the other, they can get a little bit worn. Now, I would love to open that up, but I was looking at the back of it, it'd be very hard to open it up. It's something similar to the solenoid here, where it's burred over, and to actually get that all prized back without breaking the plastic insulating material there would be fairly impossible. So I'd prefer to try and keep using the standard one instead of using a more modern one if I could. If push comes to shove, I will put a new one in it. If battery voltage stops going to that wire after a certain amount of time, I'll put in a new one, and I'll try my best to take that asunder without making a hames of it. So that's where I'm at the moment. Still trying to get a slight misfire out of it there. It comes into when it's warm, so I'm thinking, it's something small. So I also noticed yesterday that I should probably put spring washers on these, because these keep needing to be tightened up. And I did notice I was getting a lot of fuel hanging around there, and condensation and everything. So I wonder, is there still a bit on it? Actually, it still looks a bit wet there. It's hard to know now. Probably is. It's very hard to flatten that surface, for the simple reason being you have 2 studs and it's very hard to remove them. If you could remove them, you'd be able to get that nice and flat with file and then with some sandpaper. So I have to keep an eye on him, keep him tightened. I can't remember if I put, is it just grease or what is it? But I will be keeping an eye on him to make sure, because when I tightened him up yesterday when it was running, it did run a bit better after it was tightened. So another job I might do is put a bit of heat shrink over that wire. It is only inert, it's not going to go short circuit and ranting, but still just to take the bad luck off it. Again, original Ferguson soldered in, lovely job. So that's where we are at. Yeah, I was investigating all these wires, making sure everything was going to the right place, and investigating these. Again, a previous video I showed how to take one of them apart and get it working. So that's where I'm at. The head gasket seems to be holding up very well. There doesn't seem to be any drops of water around it anywhere, so I'm happy with that. And yeah, there doesn't seem to be much oil leaking at all, apart from, I have to find out what that lad there is, because there is oil leaking under him, and I'm frightened if I take him off, because he's under the oil level, that there will be an awful mess on the ground. So I'll look into that and see what it is, see if I can take it off and make a gasket for it.